Hey everybody, Pastor Randy, how are you? So today is Purim, and I've been studying the book of Esther, so I actually wanted to just touch on it a little bit for those who are reading it. It's one of the things they actually do during Purim, which is yesterday, May 2nd, and it ends tonight at May 3rd. So the beginning of May 2nd, in the morning they read it, and then they read it again at night on May 3rd. It's a really good book. I like it. I think I like it it's like a spiritual battle, and they base it with fasting and prayer, and it has a lot of interesting facts in it. And Esther she wins favor, even though Queen Vashti, however you say her name, before that got removed for almost a similar situation. She didn't listen to the king, but follow his rules. But Queen Esther found favor because she fasted, she prayed, and she leaned on God. To me, it's a book that just shows what happens when you trust in God. Major things just happen and move within your life, and that's one reason why I love her. And it says you were born for such a time as this. She was, and she found favor the whole entire time, and nobody even knew she was a Jew. She shut her mouth. She was so loyal. She was so faithful to God and committed to her foundation. And what's his name? Why did I lose his name? Mordecai. And Mordecai actually adopted her because she was actually an orphan. And then she went from being an orphan into living in the palace. And similar to Ruth, Ruth was basically homeless. She was living with her mother-in-law. She was gleaning the fields. She had no job. They had no income. They had to go and glean the fields. And then she ended up owning the fields. So these stories, the way that there's just turnaround within their lives, I just love it so much. But this book is so interesting too. It has so many important facts because this book never mentions God. Mentions king over 100 times. But it never mentions God. Very interesting. It is a book that starts with a feast and it ends in death. It tells us the origin. This goes back to it tells us the origin of the Jewish feast Purim, which was actually it says here that it's celebrated the 14th and 15th. This is a feast this feast is not it's not listed in Leviticus. So it was actually ordained or declared by the king, not by God. And it's actually one of the 9 feasts in the book of Esther. One of 9. And it's only mentioned in this book. But it's one of the 5 books. This book, Queen Esther, is one of the 5 books that is called the Megilloth, which means scrolls in Hebrew. I could have said that wrong. I don't speak Hebrew. But it's Ruth, Ecclesiastes, Psalm of Psalms, Lamentations, and the book of Esther. And during the feast, they read this out loud. And as they're reading this, when the men mentions Haman's name, the people stamp their feet and exclaim, "May his name be blotted out." Amen? Blotted out. Pretty interesting, huh? Because they don't want to blot it out. When this book started out, the feast was actually it was with white linen and purple material, which purple means royalty. And Purim, actually, one of the colors is purple, and irises is one of the flowers. One of them. There's a few other ones too, which is really interesting. But the Jews kind of turned this into a day that I'm glad we don't celebrate anymore, because they kind of party it up and treat it like Halloween, and I'm okay. I'm glad I don't have to celebrate it. But it was really interesting discovering, sometimes I look into these days and how the Jewish heritage like celebrates some of that, because it's just interesting facts, and I'm just like that person that wants to know those facts. But this whole book is, and the alcohol part makes sense because the king was drunk, probably, I would say, at least half this book, if not all of it. And it doesn't say for sure, but just reading it, like, they were having a banquet in the beginning. It starts out, there was 3 banquets right in the beginning. The Queen Vashti was having one herself, as the king was he had 2 of them. And the reason he had 2 is because he had to keep the security and the soldiers like there and ready to go. He couldn't give all his soldiers up in his team, so he had to have 2 different banquets for him. And then Vashti was having one, and he was like, "Oh, come out, show yourself." And he wanted to go out naked, and she's like, "No, I'm good. I'm okay." Some people think that she was actually pregnant with the king. I gotta look his name up. With the king who's actually in the book of Nehemiah at the time, because Xerxes, King Xerxes is actually Queen Vashti's son and King Xerxes' son, which King Xerxes is the king in Queen Esther, and King Xerxes is in, which starts with an A, is in the book of Esther. So it's pretty interesting that Nehemiah comes back, which is a couple generations later, and the 2 of them are connected through the birth of this child, through this king and this queen. And I love the book of Nehemiah also. It's a fantastic book on how to be a leader and how to rebuild stuff. And they rebuild the wall, and so it's another study that I'm actually redoing. I did it once, but I'm doing it right now, because I just love it. So I've been doing. I'm almost done with the Book of Ruth. I have a couple more days, then I'm gonna finish up Nehemiah. But this is it's just interesting to learn these facts, because this is something we don't have to do. 1, we're under the new covenant, and 2, we don't. But these are all interesting things to learn. So if you're interested in this stuff, I'm not gonna, remember, we don't have to celebrate this, okay? It's not something we're required to do. It's not like a law that God said we must do. But sometimes it's nice looking into this stuff, because you see the different, for me anyways, you see the different thing that the different heritages do, like the Jewish communities. But you also get to see sometimes like what we don't have to do, because we are under the new covenant now, instead of the old covenant, where they did have all these different things that they had to do. They had all these sacrifices that we don't have to do. There was no sacrifice here. This is actually a day they contribute to the poor in the Jewish community. They support 2 families, and depending on the family size, depends on the amount that they give. And it's just very interesting. Toby, stop it. That how this book, I mean, Queen Esther's always been a book I've been drawn to. And there's actually Haman here. He was very prideful, and he didn't like the Jews because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him, and he wanted to kill the whole community because of one man. One man irritated him so much that he didn't like the whole community. Does this remind you of stuff today? I mean, look at even our Newcastle library. I hate to bring this up, but they shut down because of one man, because they were afraid of one man who obviously did not show any violence at all. He just stood his ground. Kind of like Mordecai. Mordecai stood his ground, right? He's like, "No, I'm not bowing down to you because it's against my religious beliefs." And so he was like, kill all the Jews. It's the same thing with Bill at the library. He's like, I'm not bowing down to your LGBTQ stuff because I don't believe in it. And I think it should be removed. And they shut the whole library down and came against the whole community because of one man. This is the same thing as in the book of Esther. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing how this just like, how things happen. But here's the thing. King Xerxes he drank quite a bit. And one night, after Haman like declared this, and they had like, 4 years, I think it was, before this was actually going to happen. I wish I knew. But anyways, the Jews fasted and prayed for 3 days. And Esther went up and she was like, hey, King Xerxes, can I throw a banquet for you and Haman? Haman thought, he was like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I get to go to banquet with the queen and the king. Yeah, that's me. I'm that guy. Like, I get privilege. And all prideful, all happy, he went and told his wife. And he was all happy until he saw Mordecai. And Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him. And he's like, probably thinking like, you only have a couple more days. And then he tells his wife, they have this banquet and I can't even be happy now because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to me. She's like, hey, I got it. Let's put this pole up. And we're going to put this pole up and we can put them on the pole, which is actually how they like killed people. They put them on the, they use these big pole things, and that's how they did it back then. And she was like, here, like, let's just take them out with this, and we're going to build it right now. And he's like, all right, that's awesome. And then he went to, but before that, the night before the banquet, right, this is where it gets really good. The king couldn't sleep, and he called someone in and was like, hey, read the scroll to me. And he was like going through the scroll, and it was kind of like this history of, and remind you, he was drunk and he had a lot of influences. Like, he let a lot of people tell him what to do that he shouldn't be letting people tell him what to do. He should have been going to God instead of going to man. But hey, that's between him and God. I'm sure God talked to him about that when he got up there. But if he even made it up there, because I don't know, I'm not in charge of that. But he was like going to man, and he was always intoxicated. So he didn't have a clean and sober mind. And he couldn't sleep, and he told them to read him the scroll. So they're reading the scroll of like the history, and he realized that Mordecai did him a favor a while ago, and he never paid him for it. He never gave him honor for it. So he called Haman and was like, hey man, what would you do if you were like, if I was going to honor you, how would you want, if I was going to honor someone, how would I honor them? And Haman's like, oh yeah, thinking it's him, right? Gave him everything he wanted to do. And he was like, all right, go ahead, go get Mordecai and you ride him on that horse you wanted to ride on. You take him for a ride. You honor him for what he did to me. Oh, he was really mad then, right? And he's really losing his pride. Even though he's like so prideful because he gets to have this special banquet, he's mad, right? So he's mad. He takes him he gives him this thing, right? That he gives him what the king told him. He's still obedient. But he goes to the dinner, and then he has this pendulum thing up because, that's gonna take him out. According to his wife, hey, put that thing up. We're going to take him out. And, so he was going to go take him out, but he went to the banquet, right? Thinking, okay, this pool I set up, and he's thinking he can use it, and he can't wait. And the queen gets him in this thing and actually corners him and was like, hey, and tells the king he wants to kill the Jews, and I'm a Jew, so you'll lose me also. And the king's like, uh-oh. After the king gave him a signet ring and let him like seal it and say, hey, like, this is a signet ring, like, this is my signature, it is what it is, like, it is fine, almost basically what that ring said. But no, they didn't. But no, he was like, oh crap, like, oh no, I'm killing my wife. She's beautiful. I love her. She's queen. Like, he really liked Queen Esther, and she really had favor in him. So she was like, oh my goodness. And so what happened? And she's like, and he like storms off, and he tries talking to Esther, and Esther's like, no. By the end of the story, Haman and his whole entire family got taken out by that pendulum, by that pole. They all had to go on the pole. Because the truth came out. And the truth will always set you free. And since the truth came out and set them free, set Mordecai free, and took Haman out, he was so mad. He was so angry. He stirred so much trouble up, talked so much smack, got so mad, had people hating the Jewish community because of one man. All because of his words and his mouth. But guess what? That hate, that bitterness, that pride he had didn't just take him out. It took his whole entire family out. It backfired. And the weapon that he formed actually was the weapon that took him out. Just as it says, like, the righteous, God will protect the righteous. When we declare over ourselves, because we do declarations, we declare stuff over ourselves, and when we do the prayers, and I also have a video on it, but it says, in any areas, I declare any areas of my reputation that have been stolen from the enemy will be restored greater than ever before. That's what happened to Mordecai, okay? What else happened to him? That the ditch that they dig, my enemies will fall into. And I cannot... But it is one of the things that we declare over ourselves every time that we pray. That whatever ditch that our enemy dug for himself, he is going to fall into himself. And this is a great example of this, because this is exactly what happened here. Is that he dug a ditch for himself, actually set a pull up for himself, and he took him and his whole entire family out because he came against one man, which is God's person, one of God's people. God does not like, he says, don't touch my church. Okay. The church goes a little beyond the church. Like, you don't touch the church, but you also don't touch the people that go to the church. He don't like it. So when you do something to the people that go to the church, they have sevenfold restoration. Number one, the person that you came against. And you also dig a ditch that you're going to fall in yourself. Sorry to tell you, but you are. And that's exactly what happened here. They dug a ditch. They put this pole up. Boom. Took them out. Okay. So, rant over. And then, at the end, we're going to go to 9:20-22. Because, God always finds favor in the righteous. The righteous always find favor. They're always like the ones that actually end up being on top, okay? And not only did they take Haman out, they kept all of his plunder. And then in 9:20-22, Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes near the four of them, and celebrated annually the 14th and 15th day of the month of Adar as the time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, as the month when their sorrow was turned into joy and their mourning into celebration. He wrote them to observe these days as days of feasting, joy, and to present food to one another, and to give gifts to the poor. Remember, he loved banquets, so of course he called a banquet for it. And he's like, take care of the poor. And he actually felt bad, and Mordecai ended up taking Haman's position. And this is a great book. This is just a great book. Read it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Read this book and pay attention to it because it's great. This is like such a book that you don't have to watch a murder mystery. You don't have to, like, the plot just thickens. Like, you don't need a drama show. Read the Book of Esther. It's all right. Like, there's your drama right there. Just letting you know, like, you don't need TV when you have a Bible. You really don't. Because some of these stories are a lot better, a lot gorier, and it'll have a better climax than a lot of the other ones. But this one, it kept me on my seat, on the edge of my seat. Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like, oh my goodness. Now, Haman has to honor Mordecai. Mordecai's like, he's ready to hang him on the pole. And then Haman gets hung on the pole and you're like on your seat. Like, oh, is something going to happen to Esther when she goes to the queen? She fasted for 3 days. She has to have God's favor. And you're like trying to walk, you're like walking in faith. And she's a woman of faith, because if she wasn't faith, she wouldn't have asked questions, she wouldn't have fasted and prayed, and she wouldn't have went to the king and had the boldness to do it, but she had faith, right? So you're on your chair and you're on your seat, like, what's going to happen to her? And then you're like, oh, now Haman has to honor Mordecai. And then you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen at the banquet? What's Esther going to do? What's she going to request? Because the king said she could ask for anything. Would she ask for him and his family to be taken out? And boom, they were taken out. And then they got all the plunder too. Like, it's just like, and Mordecai got promoted because he was on it. Like, he was like on the edge of getting killed, and he went from getting taken out to promotion, favor. All because one man came against him. And I notice that every day. Like, the people that come against people, and the more you get persecuted, the more favor God finds in you. It's like, persecute me. Go ahead. Come against me. Come against me. Every time I get persecution, I'm just like, yeah, blessings coming. Persecution, press praise equals promotion. And this is a great book for that. It shows us. So, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. Enjoy purim, however you say it. But have a great day. Love you all. Read the Book of Esther if you've never done it. It's such a good book. And I'll talk to y'all later.